Hey, what is up? I hope this finds you doing well. This is Matt Javit alongside Nikki Javit. We are coming at you today from Indianapolis, Indiana, our home, after about 2 months now transitioning from coming off the road for those 800 days in 35 countries around the world. Today, we're going to talk to you about some of the kindness that we felt along the road from strangers and eventual friends, and some of the stories that came along with that, and the goodness that they gave us as we experienced all their culture and their communities in their towns. If you're just getting caught up to speed, who we are and what we did, like I said, we traveled for 800 days straight to 6 continents, and we left in February 2017, got back in May of 2019, and now we're using this podcast as we have for a little over a year now to talk about the things that we went through and the experiences that are positive, and the learning that we did along the road, in the hopes that we can help your weekend getaway get better, or your vacation, or if you're thinking about doing some long-term travel like we did, maybe we can help you in some capacity with that. By no means are we travel experts, but we did learn a lot along our journey, and our hope is we just share that here on this podcast, but also on passportjoy.com, and just, I guess, give back to the travel community in that way to hopefully help other people experience what we had the chance of experience in these awesome places around the world. As always, you can go to passportjoy.com, find the show notes of not only this episode, but all the episodes we've had in the past. That makes it easy for you to click through and find places that you might want to adventure out to, and all of the things that we enjoyed along the way. So I encourage you to go to passportjoy.com to look those things up. And also you can go to the Journey So Far tab that breaks it down month by month, country by country, of all the places we went to, in case you're thinking about a trip to Peru, or road tripping in Italy, or 10 days in Hong Kong. Whatever you might be thinking about doing, maybe we went there, and you can look it up that way, or use the site's search engine as well. As always, please, if you haven't already, please check out Nikki's book, Passport Joy: Reflections on Life, Love, and Other Stuff While Traveling the World. Those are her memoirs, her reflections on the things that she was going through prior to the trip, but then also on the trip as well. The World Barbershop Adventures continues on. We've got 21 cities now around the world that we went to, where I spent time in the barber chair, but then also share the experiences in those cities. Please go to YouTube, check that out. Again, World Barbershop Adventures. And for all the companies and the brands that we used while we traveled, check out the partners page at passportjoy.com/partners. We list out all the amazing companies that we worked with, and the things that we use to make our experience a great one. And on there, you'll find at the very top, you'll find Global Game Changers. That's actually something that's new, and it's based out of Indianapolis, but it's absolutely a global brand. And the idea there is to be able to give back to these needing communities around the world, but use travel as a way to, I guess, have that impact. So you get an awesome adventure opportunity, but then also giving back in the same way. And it's not only is it just travel based, but it's also a way to raise money and awareness to these communities that need it. So look on the partners page for more information on that and all the other brands that we used along the way. All right, if you want to receive a weekly email, go on the website, plug in your email address, press go, and you'll get a weekly email from me that highlights different things that we're going through, and also ideas around travel that might help your visits. All right, let's get into this episode. All right, today we're going to talk about the kindness around the world and all the few stories that we experienced along the way, because we hear a lot of negative stories, whether it's crime or violence around the world. Nikki and I just want to touch on some of the amazing things that happened during our 800 days of travel.
Yeah, so today we just want to touch on how the world is inherently a kind place, and keep it super positive, and just a lot of the experiences and people we met along the way that truly touched us in that positive light. A lot of times I feel like it's really hard to have this open perspective of the world if you really only hear the negative stories that are truly perpetuated by this mainstream media that we have. So, and I guess really in coming back to, I've noticed that one of the most common questions I get is did I feel safe when I was traveling and things like that? And was I ever scared? And I know we've touched on this during a lot of different podcasts, but I really, really, really want to just hone in on that. It really was safe when we were traveling. And yes, we did go to some places that, have areas that are not as safe as other places that we've been to. But for the majority of the places that we went to, it was a very positive experience and it was very safe. And so we recently just went to a wedding in Kentucky and we met this couple, and I think they'd been married for 30 years. They were going to or had just celebrated their 30th year wedding anniversary. And they were asking us a ton of questions about our travels. They'd found out that we had been to 35 countries. And the husband in the relationship was, kind of alluding to the fact that he wished he could do something like that we had just done. And I asked him well, why don't you, And they're going to be retired soon and whatnot. And he just said that his wife had such a fear of traveling outside of the United States because, it's just super unsafe. And she's scared of running into unkind people, so to speak. And I tried to really just have a conversation with them about my experiences and our experiences, Matt and I's experiences while we were traveling, just to kind of, put her at ease. And after we had spent a couple hours with them at the reception and whatnot, it was kind of touching because he pulled me off to the side when his wife wasn't there and told me, thank you so much for everything that you told us, because my wife now was talking to me about maybe traveling to Europe. And I guess I didn't realize the fear that people might have if they have not traveled outside of the United States, or the concerns that they might have that people may be unkind because they're coming from the United States and going to a foreign country, or that they think that people are going to be mean or unkind to them. But I guess travel does have dangers, but at the true core of it, kindness is really at the core of it. And people are really, really nice. And I just want to really, reiterate that concept. So I just feel like in almost every city that we've been, we've met people that have either opened their hearts or their homes to us. And there's just been so many people that have offered us either some food or shared stories with us or helped us in a time of need when we really need it, and shared a part of their culture with us. And just to share some very specific examples so you know exactly what I'm talking about. During our journey, when we first started out, when we were in South America, we were in Cusco, Peru, and we were meeting a gentleman. He had started a church, and we were trying to find out where it was. He had kind of given us some basic general idea of where it was. He said, you had to go here behind this kind of little community where all these homes were and go up these several flights of stairs. And so Matt and I were doing that. And, really Google Maps at this point doesn't work when you're doing this. And so we got to the vicinity of where we thought his church may be, and we just really weren't finding it. And we were getting a little frustrated, and we were kind of walking in these little back alleys, and there was a lot of dogs around and stuff. And we just got to the point where I was we cannot find this guy. And our phones weren't working properly. And so this woman came out from her home, and she had her child with her, and she was just asking us is everything okay? And I was trying to tell her, we're trying to find our friend. He's a pastor in this church. And I was trying to explain it to her, and she didn't really know where we were talking about, but she took her own cell phone out and she was like, do you have his phone number? And we said, yeah. And so she dialed the phone number for us and called him for us on her cell phone, and then let us use her phone for as long as we wanted to just to find our way. And I just thought to myself, that's so nice of her, this woman who doesn't even know who we are. We're just two people walking in these little back alleys behind her home, trying to find our way. And I'm not too sure at that point in my travels if I would have just given a stranger, a passerby, my cell phone just out of my home, with the story of, yeah, I'm trying to find my way. But she did. And that was just super nice of her to do. So just a random act of kindness. And, I think far too often we think, oh, someone's going to steal my stuff if I let them borrow it, or maybe they're lying to me, or they have wrong intentions. But really, she was just trying to help us out. So that's an example example. Another example for us was we were in Mossel Bay, South Africa, and we had booked an Airbnb through, the website, and we ended up staying with this woman, and she kind of had a situation where her home was separate, and then she had like a little, I guess, studio, 1-bedroom apartment below, and it was completely separated. And Matt and I had ended up staying with her for about a month. And in the description, it was very straightforward that, laundry was not included, but there was a laundromat nearby and a grocery store within about a half a mile's walk nearby. And Matt and I knew, hey, we'd just be walking into town to doing our laundry and to go get our groceries. Well, she just, kind of became our friend. And, over the course of about a week and a half of staying with her, she was like, hey, I see you guys walking into town to get your groceries. I pretty much drive into town almost every other day. So just let me know when you're going to go into town and I'd be happy to drop you off. So you're not lugging all your groceries back and forth. Cause it's super hot. And it was a lot to lug on our backs. And she ended up calling one of her friends that lived, a couple miles away and seeing if we could use their bikes bicycles, I should say, since we were going to be there for an extended period of time because we had ended up joining a gym that was really far away. And she was like, you can use that for a mode of transportation because Matt and I had looked into renting bicycles. And oddly enough, to rent a bicycle is actually expensive. So she saved us some money doing that. And then a couple weeks into our stay, she was like, you know what? You don't need to bring your laundry into town. She's like, I do my laundries. And I forget what day it was, but she's like, just give me your laundry, leave it outside your door. And she's like, I'll do your laundry for you. And then you can just hang it out on the clothesline to dry. So it was just like a little, a random act of kindness like that, where it was like, hey, that saves us a lot of money, a lot of time and money, especially on the bicycle renting, for us to not have to, do that and bring that into town and whatnot. So super cool of her to do. And then once we left her place, we transitioned into a workaway. And we've talked about this before. It's really a workaway is just a place where you can volunteer your services for a free place to stay. And so our next place that we were going after her place in Mossel Bay was a workaway surf lodge. And we were just going to volunteer our time there, kind of work reception at a little surf lodge, like a front desk type thing. And she even offered to take us and drive us all the way there. And it was about an hour away. And on our way there, she took us to the grocery store so we could stock up on groceries. And then we had a couple days off. So you don't work every single day, but we had a couple days off during the month that we were doing this work away. And she drove all the way back down and picked us up, took us back to her house for the weekend so we could hang out with her again. And we went to a winery and just chilled and had fun. And I just thought that was such a neat thing to do for her to take time out of her life to spend time with us and for her to make that special for us so that we had time to enjoy our time off from our work away. So just another example of a random act of kindness from a stranger we had just met and booked through Airbnb. Another example is our time in India. And so kind of random, Matt had some friends who he had reached out to prior to us going to India and said, hey, we're going to be in India during this time. Do you know of any people that we can stay with? And he had a lot of friends come through. And when I say friends come through, it was their family members, really, their extended family members come through. And with open arms, we had 2 families say that they would host us. And we had never met these family members before. And so we stayed with a couple named Mr. and Mrs. Joshi. And when we arrived in their home, I was deathly ill. Like I felt like crap. I had a fever. I felt horrible for even being there. Who wants to show up to someone's house and feel like crap? You've never met them before. She welcomed me with open arms. She acted like she was my mother. I just said, hey, I'm going to go in the bedroom. I feel super bad. I just really don't feel well. She was making me fresh squeezed juices, taking my temperature, putting a cold compress on my head, just making sure I was okay. And I myself, I was just feeling horrible. I was like, I don't want to expose her to anything just in case I had the flu. And she was like, honey, don't even worry about it. Like, I feel really bad for you. If you need anything, I'll take you to the hospital. So just super nice, caring, loving. And she had never met me before and making sure that I was truly okay.
And in the meantime, her husband, Mr. Joshi, was, I spent time in his office seeing how he ran his business there, a small technology company. I had a chance to experience that. And they arranged for a couple of local people to host us and take me around town to show me different things around town during the festivities of Diwali. So it was, the kindness just did not stop from people that essentially were just told by their son-in-law who we were. And from the care that Nikki was getting, and then the endless food that Mrs. Joshi continued to feed me, and just the warmness of their home was amazing.
Yeah. And then the other family in India actually hosted us for a family wedding. So their niece was getting married, and they invited us into their home for 10 full days, gave us their master bedroom to sleep in. And we were a part of their family celebration for 10 full days. We went to every single pre-wedding ceremony, wedding ceremony, and after wedding ceremony celebration with their family. They allowed me to borrow clothes so I could feel like I fit in, and they fed us food the entire time. We felt most welcome during our entire time spent there. Again, these people had never met us. It was one of Matt's good friends who he had worked with here in Indianapolis. It was his parents who live in India, and they had never met us before and just welcomed us into their home without ever having met us for 10 full days. And again, just imagine doing that, never meeting someone and saying, come stay with me for 10 days and here's my bedroom and all the food you could ever want and wear my clothes. So just super, super nice people.
That relationship grew out of, we went there for one wedding in October of 17 and then went back again in February of 19. Then at that point, the relationship with the family grew even further. And then it also extended into neighbors, and the kindness just continued to overflow as we visited. This is in Hyderabad, India, the amazing people there.
Another pretty cool story I have is a former colleague of mine. I used to work with her at CVS. Her name is Min. I remembered her saying something how her brother Tin lived in Hong Kong. And so when Matt and I were going to Hong Kong, I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Min and see if her brother still lives there. And sure enough, I reached out to Min. And now, mind you, I had not seen Min for probably, I can't even tell you, 10 years. And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, he still lives there. I'll talk to him. I'll get you in contact with him. Here's his phone number. Him and his wife, Sue, live there. They'd love to show you around. And it was honestly some of the most fun I've had in a while. They took us out. They took us to some of their favorite restaurants so we could try some Chinese hot pots. And the first night we met them, we went out for bar hopping just around this really cool district. And it was just really nice just to have, had we been there before? Or was that our second time? Yeah. So that was our only time having been there, but we hung out with them twice. But it was just nice, never having been in that city, and just to have a point of contact and just to see the city from a different perspective and have someone actually show you a really cool place to eat some food and just take care of you. It was just a lot of fun.
And it's probably one of, both of those nights that we went out to dinner with them are probably two of my most memorable dinner experiences, because they just went all out. And especially the one place in the authentic Chinese place, because we went to an authentic Chinese place and then we went to one of those hot pot places. But the authentic Chinese place was tremendous, because I had pigeon, duck, there was tofu, there was snails. There was just a wide variety of exotic foods, and the spices were unbelievable. And then his wife Sue was so tiny, but she was eating at my level, just endlessly. So it was just an unbelievable experience where we were just crushing all this food, had a great time, had wonderful conversations, and just learned more about their experience in Hong Kong, because they had spent some time in America as well. And then also, but her family was a traditional Chinese family. So just a chance to connect in that way. And then the next meal was even better, because at that point we knew him a little bit better. But it was just for people that did not know us to connect in that way that fast was pretty amazing.
Another thing was when we went to Singapore. So in Singapore, you have these cards that you load up for public transportation. I forget what the card is called, but you load this card up with money and then you can like swipe it and it takes off every time you use it. Or you can just use actual money like the Singaporean dollars and pay as you go. So I didn't have a card loaded up this time. And so I was just paying as I go. Well, if you pay as you go, they do not give you cash back if you don't have exact cash. So I only had large bills on me and my ride was like $2. So I had like a 5 and a 10. And this woman was seeing me as I got on the bus. Matt had paid his way and then and he had large bills. And then I was trying to find like $2 and change and I didn't have it, but I had a 5 and a 10. And so this random woman was on the bus with her daughter and she saw me digging around in my purse and she was about to get off and I was still digging in my purse for like, I don't know, the change or whatever the change they have, like small coins, like $1 or whatever. And she just walked right over to me and handed me $2. And I was like, oh my God, no. Don't even worry about it. I'll just pop a 5 in. And she said, don't worry about it. Pay it forward. So she literally just handed me 2 Singaporean dollars for me to pay my fare because she knew I didn't want to use my 5 and I was rooting around for change. And I thought like, how cool is that for her to just do? And she didn't even know me. And then she just got right off the bus. So again, super cool of her to do when I was just trying not to use my $5 bill. Again, nice. She didn't need to do it. Didn't even know me. Didn't even have a conversation with the lady.
Yeah. During our scooter ride craziness in Da Nang, Vietnam, Nikki and I were out one night for a long ride and we got a flat. And I don't think we really we haven't told many people about this, but we got a flat, just unexpectedly just got a flat. Those things happen. But it had yet to happen to us. And once you get a flat tire, there's not much you can do. And this was a Sunday night, I believe. And we were pretty nervous about, okay, how are we going to get out of this thing? So we ended up walking into this house full of non-English speaking, mostly kids. And there was a mom there, and just through translation of one of the 12-year-olds, they kind of understood what happened. And obviously once I brought the bike over and pointed to the wheel, then they really understood. But they just kept pointing down the street. And then finally we had one of the girls walked us probably a half a mile to a tire repair shop, small one. And they patched it up rather quickly with like a brother come by or an uncle. Did somebody come by? There's 2 women there. Yeah. They patched it up rather quickly, and it was good enough that we could go on our way. But then they would not accept money because we attempted to pay the money and they would not accept money. And then it lasted about less than 2 miles and it popped again. And then we went to the gas station and then they were overly helpful. And what was crazy too is we had to see this wild business where he made a phone call and then this guy rolled up he was a motorcycle repair guy, and that's all he did. And this dude was probably in his 60s, but he was amazing, and just how they operate so quickly and just the kindness of it all. But all in that way where something could have been bad just turned out to be another cool situation in the story. And just you see how everybody kind of helps you out so quickly to make everything go well.
Yeah, super cool. People so nice. So I guess the next thing we kind of want to talk about is just like, since we're talking about being kind, people being kind, is like accepting that kindness. So, everyone around you can be kind. Now we're telling you that people are kind. So now you have to accept that kindness, right? So playing off of the world is inherently kind. Like, it's just really important to remember that kindness from strangers is really an open invitation to new adventures and like new experiences. So I guess some more stories would be, to expel upon that, would be when we first started traveling, when we were in Chile, our host in Viña del Mar. So it was really kind of hard to converse with her. So in Chile, we've talked about this before. Now I can speak Spanish, but Chilean Spanish is very difficult to converse with Chileans in the Spanish that I know. So when I would talk to her, we'd have to talk very slow with each other. And she was good about talking like a little bit of broken English, but she invited us to a dinner. And I think it was our last night or second to last night. She said that she was having friends come over and She wanted us to have like a sit down dinner. And it was funny because no one spoke English. So Matt and I were kind of nervous. We were like, oh gosh, how are we going to struggle through this? It's already bad enough with her broken English and we're already using Google Translate. But again, it was just accepting that kindness. She really wanted to cook us a Chilean meal. She really wanted her friends to meet us, to tell her friends about, this couple that was staying with her in her Airbnb and that they're traveling the world. And it was an amazing night. I mean, yeah, we had to use Google Translate and struggle through a bunch of conversation, but, we drank wine and we ate her food. And it was just a really fun night to remember. And she's a great friend of ours. We still talk to her on Facebook to this day. And it was just, accepting that kindness from her, accepting that dinner invitation from her, getting outside of our comfort zone and sitting through a almost 3 hour sit down meal with her and struggling through that conversation piece and realizing like, hey, we can do this. Matt and I are together in this and it's going to be okay. So accepting that. Another example was we were in Hvar, Croatia, and we had just left a really beautiful Sunday mass and we're walking back home and just Matt and I were kind of just talking and I don't know, we were like figuring out what we were going to do that night. And this elderly gentleman was walking behind us and he was like, hey, and we both turned around and he's like, where are you guys going? And we were like, I don't know. Where are you going? And we just stopped like dead in the middle of the sidewalk and just started talking about everything. It was almost comical looking back on it because we were like talking about politics and we were talking about food and talking about like just stuff back in the United States, just random. It was so hodgepodgey. And then all of a sudden, after probably talking for about 20, 30 minutes, he was like, hey, do you guys want to come back to my place and have some wine and grapes? And Matt and I were like, well, we don't really have any plans. Why not? Like, when in Hvar, you might as well go sit at some dude's house and eat some grapes and drink some wine. So fabulous night. We ended up going back to this guy's house. I forget how many hundreds of years old it was, but it was a family home, several hundreds of years old. He wasn't planning on having any guests over. So he had like clothes strewn all over the place. And he had just gone to a winery that day and had fresh picked grapes and he put them in a bowl, washed them off, and he had all this wine. And we were just talking about life and love and politics and you name it. And we went from one topic to the other. And before we knew it, it was super late at night. And, it was just a really good night. His name was Vladimir and I love Vladimir. Like he was hilarious. I don't even know how old Vladimir was. Probably in his 70s. He could have been in his 80s. Who knows? But it was just an awesome night. Again, just accepting that kindness, that nice gesture from that man who probably just wanted a friend to talk to or some company because he was by himself. And, just that open invitation to just have fun. It was a new adventure for us. It was a new experience. One of my most favorite things that I think we ever did, just because I think it was a unique experience that will never happen to me again. Because, the last two things I've talked about are like random people asking you to go to a dinner party, which, we've all done that. This is just in different settings. But this was, we were in Da Nang, Vietnam, and my brother-in-law had come to visit us. And so I guess it was pretty magical in itself that, our family was there and whatnot. And we decided to kind of just randomly go to this Buddhist temple. And it was during the Vietnamese New Year too. So we're outside, we're walking around, and Chuck was like really admiring these hand-carved marble statues outside. And Chuck's my brother-in-law, for people who don't know that. And this monk comes over and Chuck's having this conversation. He's like, are these really hand-carved? And they're having these conversations like, yeah, they are. He was telling how the marble comes from Marble Mountain and it's here from Vietnam and all this stuff. And they were, shooting the crap for like 20 minutes. And then another Buddhist monk comes over and him and I just start talking about stuff. And then he walks over and he says, I would like to invite you to have a meal with us inside of the temple. And at first I was like, is this really happening right now? And so I said to Matt, he's inviting us to dinner. Oh my gosh. And we had dinner plans. We were going to leave the temple. We were all going to go out to this restaurant that we had picked out in town. And I was like, I can't pass this up. And so, we talked amongst each other and we were like, yeah, we can't pass this up. So we parked our scooters, we took off our helmets, we went inside, and it was just amazing. Like we sat down with a Buddhist monk and Obviously, I mean, the food is not what we wanted to eat, but it was just amazing to hear about this monk and how he had been practicing Buddhism since he was 18 years old, and how he meditates for how many hours all day long. And just, it was really cool. And then he took us, after we had had food, to the temple, a part that really no one else was going in, and showed us all of the statues. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And again, like, we could have said no, hey, we have dinner plans, or we could have been really, haste makes waste about it and just walked in and walked out and did our little wish like everyone else was doing. But it was just really accepting that invitation and that new experience and enjoying that moment. So I don't know, that was one of my most favorite experiences.
Yeah, and we love to talk about Vietnam and the kindness of the people there, but the one experience that I've talked about before, but it's worth repeating, is one day my brother and I went out on our scooters. And I'm 6'6", and my brother is a big dude. I mean, he's about 6 foot, and he's pretty wide and muscular. And we were out on our scooters one day, just adventuring out, checking things out, and we both have tattoos as well, so we're pretty tatted guys. And we're on the scooters, just going through these small towns outside of Da Nang, Vietnam, and we end up getting invited into homes. As we're driving through these small towns, people are on the streets inviting us into their home and waving at us and trying to get us to stop and slow down so we can talk to them, or at least attempt to talk to them. So after just waving people, and because we were attempting to go see this mountain and this lakeside view. On the way back, my brother and I agreed that if we get the opportunity to stop, because we had enough time, that we would take them up on it and visit somebody's home. And sure enough, within the next 7 or 8 minutes, somebody flagged us down. The kid was, I say kid, he's probably 21 or so. He flagged us down and invited us into their home, and they brought out like beer and these snacks. And through one of the kids who could translate English, we spent time with him and his 2 brothers. He had a sister. There ended up being like 5 children, and the father, who was former military. And we just had these conversations about just a wide range of conversations about our travels and what we were doing in Da Nang and how we liked the country. And it was just amazing that they just took the time to do all this and invite us in as we sat in our living room and just had this really warm and engaging conversation. So it's a lot of those stories that kept us going and just made our trip so unique and amazing. And as we transition back, people are like, what would you guys like so much about traveling? And it's those real personal stories and the interaction with the people, and just that open kindness that we saw over and over. And the fact that Nikki and I, as you see kindness and it continues to ripple, you understand it and you can sense it as you're having those the interaction with people. So you allow yourself to be open to more kindness. And we just told those stories, but there were so many. I mean, you talk about all the interactions we had in Lisbon, and then on the Northern Italy road trip, and the family that cooked us pizzas. And I mean, there's so many stories that we love to share, and just so much fun.
Yeah. And we want to mention too that a lot of these examples that we're giving are strictly examples of people that we do not know. Like, these are just strangers that we met that don't know us and that we don't know them. And of course, like, our friends that we either met along the way or that helped us, from afar, definitely extended that hand and were super kind. And so I don't want anyone listening to this who's a friend of ours thinking that they're left out or that we're not mentioning them for a specific reason. I'm just saying that, random acts of kindness from strangers, like people that don't even know us, are just things that are mind-blowing to me, that people that don't even know you from anywhere can just completely just change your day and just be super nice to you for no reason at all.
And that is it for this episode. Thanks again so much for checking us out and listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. We're going to continue to talk about our transition, talk about all the things that we're going through, and reflect on the journey that was. And we'll also continue to travel. So we'll share this on this Passport Joy Travel Talk podcast. So please subscribe so it automatically goes in your inbox. And if you haven't already, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us get in front of other potential traveler listeners, and it continues to put us out there. That feedback loop really helps, not only on the podcast, but if you're watching things like World Barbershop Adventures on YouTube, any positive feedback goes a long way there. And as well as if you've read Nikki's book, leaving her review on Amazon is also great. Like I said earlier, sign up at passportjoy.com for the newsletter that comes out on Thursdays. Put your email address in there, press go, and you'll get a little, I guess, extra insight on things that are coming up and things that are going on in our world. And that is about it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, hopefully you're got some travel plans for the end of the summer, and I hope you have a great time doing that. And send me information about it, or if you got questions about what you're going to, we're always open to help. And we look forward to hearing from you and connect again soon. Thanks.